My name is J. Mark Campbell. Welcome to CenterVision with our special guest today, Clare Lopez, Vice President of Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy. We have some very hot-breaking topics and issues going on today in the Middle East and over in Israel. And Clare, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Very glad to be with you. Thanks, Mark.
Well, I don't know where to start at today. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. I mean, do we start with the kids over that are returned, that have been killed and returned over to the border or to ISIS? Where do you want to start at, Clare? Where do you think is a more important topic?
Well, why don't we start with the 3 Israeli teenagers who were kidnapped now something like 2 weeks ago. And as it turns out now, it has just been discovered that they were shot. They were murdered probably very shortly after their kidnapping. They had been hitchhiking.
I'm sorry. So right after they were kidnapped, they were killed. So the last 14 days they have been dead?
Yes, that seems to be true. What happened is that the boys were hitchhiking. They were coming home to their various homes in Judea and Samaria from a yeshiva school. And it's common practice to hitchhike over there, but they got picked up by the wrong crowd. And it seems that one of them got off a phone call very quickly and let people know we've been kidnapped. And as we now know, even as that phone call was finishing, there were sounds of gunshots, and they were murdered right there.
I thought what I found kind of interesting in some of the research that we've been doing is that this has been a 24/7 nonstop story over in Israel, whereas it's got very little press attention over in this country. But is that true? It's been 24/7 over there?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
And what does that mean that they found these boys, murdered in essence? What does that mean with all this hype and all this energy that's built up in Israel? What does that mean for the Gaza border, Hamas, Fatah, and the whole region?
I mean, obviously this is a really emotional issue for Israelis. These were young boys. They were in their teens, innocent students at a yeshiva. And they were kidnapped and murdered in cold blood. The search went on because even though they heard gunshots over the telephone, they didn't know for sure they were dead until they, unfortunately, sadly, just found their bodies. But what this means really is that the Israeli government is blaming Hamas for their kidnapping and murder, and has vowed to exact retribution. Bombing of Hamas sites and facilities and homes in the Gaza Strip already has begun. More broadly, what this also means is that the unity government established by the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, Abu Mazen, and Hamas is now under great pressure if this is what Hamas has done. And then, of course, the United States government relationship with the Palestinian Authority, which has taken for its partner a Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organization like Hamas, is also coming under a lot of pressure and scrutiny, certainly from the U.S. Congress.
So the tension is obviously building up over there, and there's a lot of people feel that this could be the Duke Ferdinand moment, if you will. That it could be something that would light off a bigger fire over there. Do you see that type of scenario taking place to launch a out-of-control war with Hamas or anything else?
Well, I mean, there certainly will be very serious strikes conducted by the Israelis against Hamas, its leadership, its facilities in the Gaza Strip. Like I said, that already has begun. Whether Hamas is prepared to fight back over that or to escalate the level of the conflict, unknown at this point. It could come to that. But at the very least, this will play out at the political level, and that's really where it's very important, because if that unity government between Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, and Hamas is broken, is broken apart, it certainly provides more consideration for the United States and our leadership,
Right.
which has been so foolishly, single-mindedly, recklessly pursuing an understanding, a peace agreement with the Palestinians for all these many months.
Well, let's move on to ISIS, and let's move on to the little C, I guess I'll call it the little caliphate that's been announced in the last week. What's your take on what this little caliphate ramifications has towards this caliphate that you've been talking about and everybody's been talking about for years, which nobody have ever heard about? So give us some more information here, Clare.
Sure. Well, ISIS was an acronym that stood for Islamic State in Iraq and Al-Sham, and it really no longer exists because neither Iraq nor Syria anymore exists as as an independent country,
Right.
As it was before. The border between these two countries, former countries, literally has been erased, and these jihadis, which had their origin, by the way, in Iraq, and with the old Abu Musab al-Zarqawi al-Qaeda terror militia back in the middle 2000s, fighting against the United States and coalition forces at that time. That is where they had their origin. They went to Syria to fight against the regime of Bashar al-Assad.
Right.
They were not successful in overthrowing Bashar al-Assad, obviously, but they did expand. They grew. They grew in strength. And they were disowned eventually by al-Qaeda Central, by Ayman al-Zawahiri. Not as many people say because they were too extreme or too radical or some such nonsense, but rather because they were insubordinate. And the leader of what used to be called ISIS, now established, declared to be a caliphate, the Islamic State, or just IS, is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And al-Baghdadi now has taken the name for himself of Ibrahim, the Caliph, and he claims in statements issued in several different languages, including English, claims jurisdiction over Muslims of the entire world.
So no borders.
Well
so there's no borders on this, right, Clare? There's
the broader.
This is no borders. A caliphate is understanding as a borderless country, borderless area of just a pan-Islamic state. Is that correct? And that's
what they're aiming for. Exactly. And the second part of that we should mention is that the idea is not just to establish Islamic governance, this caliphate, but to subjugate everyone in it to enforced Sharia law, Islamic law.
Well, this is truly amazing where we're going with, even though it hasn't been recognized by the major schools of thought, Al-Azhar or Turkey or anywhere like that, it's still massively significant that you have been saying, Center for Security Policy has been saying for years, this is their ultimate objective, is to form a caliphate. That they have come out and publicly said this within the last week. Not only, and everybody said, you're crazy, Claire, you're crazy, Tom, you're crazy. Everybody's crazy over there. No, that's not what they want. But now we have evidence, hard concrete evidence that yes, indeed, this is their end objective, to form a worldwide caliphate.
Sure it is.
Even though it's a small C, still the end objective is to get the big C, the big caliphate. I mean, it's totally fascinating, and it's the information that you're bringing is just, so up to date and so right on topic, years ahead of advance, like this was before, and now you're.
Well, I don't want to claim any particular prescience, but if folks would remember, back in 2005,
right,
Der Spiegel, the German publication, published an interview online with, of all people, Saif al-Adil. Saif al-Adil, you might recall, is military commander for al-Qaeda, operating out of Iran ever since 9/11. And they snagged an interview with Saif al-Adil. And he laid out in this article, which you can still find online at Der Spiegel, the 7 phases that al-Qaeda intended to follow in order to achieve its caliphate and then confrontation with the West, the Dar al-Harb. This is the Dar al-Islam versus the Dar al-Harb, Muslim world versus non-Muslim world. And phase 4 of those 7 phases in that 2005 article, that's 9 years ago, phase 4 said it would be between the years of 2010 and 2013, and that would be the time for the overthrow of the secular Arab rulers. What happened? Islamic uprising. Out goes Ben Ali in Tunisia, Gaddafi in Libya, Mubarak in Egypt. The 5th phase is the phase we're in now, according to this timeline. It runs from 2013 till 2016. We're in 2014 right now, and it is the phase for the establishment of the caliphate. According to their own timetable, they are smack on target. Say what you will about overall command and control and so forth. They are smack on target with their own timetable.
So you don't have a magic crystal ball. You're just reading what they write and believing them. Is that correct?
I try. They are very they're very ready to publish and to explain exactly what they intend to do, how they're going to do it. But the problem here with the United States, of course, is that our government, under the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood, which has infiltrated so deeply, the United States government has outlawed all use of terminology that would describe what's happening. What we call the Great Purge that began in 2011, 2012, physically removed all this language like jihad and caliphate. I mean, how do you even talk about it anymore? From all presentations, all PowerPoints, all curriculum for teaching within the U.S. government. And that means all of our intelligence community. It means our military. It means everybody, Department of State, Department of Homeland Security, not allowed to even use the language or know what the language means. Are we surprised that our CIA representatives are now on record in the media saying, well, we didn't have any idea. We had no idea this was coming. Well, hello. They're not allowed to read or to know even what Al-Qaeda itself is writing and saying.
Well, that's the reason I need to listen to you, Clare, and listen to what you're presenting and what you're telling them, because what you're telling them is absolute fact from their own words, of their own mouths, and now we have evidence that, undeniable evidence, this is their goal. Clare, thank you for stopping on the show today, and we'll see you next week, and we'll bring back another special guest from Center for Security Policy. Maybe we have Clare back again. She has so much information in her head up there. So, Clare, thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Look forward to it.